Well, hi everyone. This is Robin Blake Muscari in Bozeman, Montana, and I'm welcoming you to Wise Women Weekly. We get together every Thursday to share wisdom from some amazing people on building a networking business from the softer side and personal and professional support for you to have an even better life than you already have. So we get together weekly, and my co-host, Monty Patterson, will be with us in just a minute, and we have a special guest today, so we'll jump right in. And just so you know, this is a safe place. This is a place where people from all companies can get together because we don't promote any networking products or business opportunities. This is really, truly designed for your personal development, and we are thrilled that you've taken the time to be with us today. So our special guest today, oh my goodness, we had her on once before, and we had a blast, and she's a pro. She's a gem. She's a treasure. I had the privilege of meeting her not that long ago, but there was an instant bonding, and the more I spend time with her, the more I learn from her, and the more invaluable she becomes in my life. So I'd love to introduce Sugar Jones to you. And Sugar, she's a lifestyle blogger. She is a genius when it comes to social media and has taken it to many, many dimensions. She's been blogging about life, love, and the internet since 2007 and has been an incredible student. She's worked for many significant companies like Nintendo, Verizon, many other things, Ford, Harley-Davidson, Kodak. She pinches herself daily for the unforgettable opportunities that the whole social media thing has brought to her. And she's a recognized face on the San Diego social media scene. People know this woman for a good reason. And when I look at her stats, oh my God, no, goodness, 16,800 Twitter followers, 3,700 Facebook friends and followers, 5,800 Google Plus pals, 2,000 Instagrammers, oh my goodness, 1,900 Pinterest followers. So there's a lot to learn from this woman. And today we're going to do something really, really special with Sugar Jones. It's the knowledge of Y.O.U. So let's say hello to Sugar and to Monty. Hello.
Hello, hello. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but so glad that I'm here. Hey, Sugar.
Hello. I'm glad we can hear each other.
When the three of us are
Yes.
in the same space, it's just really cool. I don't know. It just feels fun.
It does. So before we get started, I just wanted everyone to know that you have an opportunity on the left side of your screen if you want to ask questions, and we'll be monitoring your questions. So as we go along, that would be great. So if anyone wants to say hi, you can do that, and we'll be able to see who's here, and that'll be wonderful. So welcome, Sugar Jones.
Hello. I have to stop you guys for a second. You were reading off my numbers, and I was like, God, those are so low. My friends that are in, like, really the real geniuses of social media, they've got like 30,000 followers, this and that, and I'm just like, God, I only have 16,000 followers. Thankfully, those numbers are good enough to work with those companies that you mentioned earlier to help them promote whatever it is they're doing. And so I've had these really great experiences. So I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way.
So are we ready to jump in and find out about Y.O.U.?
Sure.
Okay, Monty, you want to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, that's the question of the hour, Sugar. What is it? What is Y.O.U.? I want to hear the creative genius behind that. Well, we all do.
Well, okay, so this is actually something that I've become certified in, and it has really just helped me personally in my relationships and also in the things that I've chosen to do in my life, you know, things that had to resonate with me. And being the person that I am, I thought that there was, and I think a lot of people have this issue, I thought there was something wrong with me because there were certain things that were particular to me, and I was trying to always fix them. What I ended up finding out through this test, you know, for the Y.O.U., was that there's nothing wrong with me, that we are all perfect, we are all perfectly designed. So Y.O.U. is basically your own understanding, and it's the owner's manual that we were not born with. And I'm sure my mother would have appreciated the owner's manual on me, because she and I are completely different animals. The only thing that's the same about us is that we're both female, and we both like chocolate. So the Y.O.U. basically, it goes over 5 different areas in a person's, just a person's innate being, in their natural, how they appear in nature. It's their style, their physical traits, things that motivate each individual, the way that we learn. Some people, have to learn sitting in front of a computer. Some people have to be moving and shaking all the time. My son's kind of like that. It also goes into our preferences, a word called refinement, that we'll talk about words in a second, and then our polarity, our things that attract and repulse us. So that's basically, in a nutshell, those are the 5 avenues, the 5 areas that we go over in the Y.O.U., the Ultimate Life Tool, that goes into your own understanding.
Love it.
Yeah, I knew we were going to say that at the same time. I'm like, which one of us should say how much we love it at the same time? But you know what's great about that? I was just thinking about that when you were talking, because I know we both have homeschooled our children, and you recognize that, when you were looking at your son, he's kind of the type that likes to squirm and things, and mine was the kind that likes to be hands-on and have you act out things and make everything fun. But even as children are similar in that way, so are adults. And I think that, when I look around, I see so many people that don't really fully understand who they are. That's why so many people live in the question of what is my purpose and those types of things, because they're trying to fit into the mold that either society has for them or that people tell them that they are supposed to be. And I remember seeing something on Facebook, and it said, do you remember who you were before the world told you who you were supposed to be? Yeah. And so I can't wait to hear how much more you share on that.
Well, I have a saying, and it's not anything that I came up with. I love to borrow, wonderful phrases. Yeah. And it's don't should on yourself. We should on us. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. There was one thing that I used to do that I was so ashamed of. I had so much shame attached to this need. Every afternoon, and I worked kind of high power, professional jobs before I joined social media, before I quit the rest of the world and joined in on this whole bandwagon of social media. I worked in very kind of strict high power offices, and every afternoon I would make a fake appointment with a fake client that didn't exist, because I had to go out to my car and take a nap, and I would drive myself somewhere where nobody would know, and I would set an alarm, or I would innately wake myself up, but every afternoon I had to take a nap. And I was like, oh, I've got to get over this. And then those 5-hour energies came in, and I was like, So I'm like, if I could shoot them in my veins, I totally would have. Turns out, the way that I process information, my energy levels, my polarity, my styles, my traits require that I shut myself down for about an hour to 2 hours every afternoon. If I don't do that, the rest of the day is ruined. And so that's what was happening whenever I was starting to drink those 5-hour energies or have the afternoon iced coffee or just find some sort of way to wake myself up. And that when you said that, where people, they're being told certain things, I was told that napping was something that only lazy people did. And I did not want to be considered lazy because I was in this high power environment. So that's just one little tiny thing. So for those of you out there that need to nap, it's okay.
I love that you have learned and realized what really validates honoring your natural vibration and your natural rhythms. But I want to get back to something you said right in the beginning, Sugar. You said you got certified in this program. Mm-hmm. First of all, that means to me that you get to work with other people with it, and that's an additional, major commitment. So you must feel really strongly about this. And what made you want to get certified to share this with other people?
Well, one of the things that came up in my test was that I really enjoy helping people and kind of in a teaching capacity, teaching them a little bit more about themselves. So the high-power job that I had before, I was a corporate recruiter, and the thing that I loved the most, that I absolutely just, that got me up and got me into the office every day, was getting people jobs, you know, and connecting them and putting them in their perfect environment. And I could kind of read, I could kind of intuit who they were, and then I would go and meet the companies and intuit who they were and put the two people together. And so that's what I did, and I absolutely loved that. The parts that I hated were the reports, the managing other people and telling them that they, you know, that they sucked at their jobs, because that's what I had to do when I was the director. And, you know, people that were my friends all of a sudden hated me because I was their boss, and I wasn't a very good director. I will be completely honest, because I'm not the kind of person that loves reports. I can read a report and I know how to use a report, but if that's all I get to do, I will die on the vine. And so I had to learn that about myself, and that, you know, the whole napping thing too. I really thought I was a failure. And how many people are walking around thinking that they are failures because they don't understand who they are? And basically, I just wanted to clean off, you know, the windshield of the car that they're driving on, so that they could really see what road they're supposed to be on. You know, I think sometimes our windshields get a little muddy, and my job is basically to clean it off and just make sure that we're all on track.
Love it.
Wow.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Okay, so you chose this and you're sharing it with people. So how do people do this thing called do a YOU assessment?
Well, I do have a test, but I wanted to talk about some other stuff first really quickly. Just kind of. I sent you some questions.
Okay. You mean you want us to use your questions? Okay. Oh, here we go, girls. This is what happened. Okay, Monty, you're better at directions. Monty, you go with the questions, okay?
Okay. All right, awesome. So I want to go back to something real quick, Sugar. You said don't should on yourself, and I love that, because so many people say, I have to talk to my husband about that all the time, being very transparent. He'll make a decision and go, oh, I should have made another. Oh, why did I do that? And I'm like, listen, it is what it is, but there's always the should have. And I see so many people doing the, oh, if I had done it this way, or if I had done it that way. So the question then is don't should on yourself. You know, in what ways has language and what we say to ourselves and what we put out there, how's that affected your perception?
Okay, well, the words that we use, I'm kind of an etymology freak because I'm a little bit of a nerd. You find out what a word actually meant a long time ago, and how we use it now is completely bastardized. You know, like the words positive and negative, they aren't supposed to mean good and bad. They're just positive and negative. It talks about how something is charged. So that's one, and that's one thing that we talk about a lot in our YOU, in our Your Own Understanding. But even just what you just said right now, that your husband says that he should have done it a certain way, is because he's listening to other people, you know, and maybe trying to take their owner's manual and place it on himself. It worked for this person, so it's got to work for me. And so then we end up having this conversation with ourselves where we're like, God, I screwed up. God, I'm so stupid. And sometimes I'll hear myself say, oh, I'm so stupid. And then you'll hear me right after that say, no, I'm not. I just did that incorrectly. Or no, I'm not. I just chose the wrong thing for me. And my kids are like, oh, she's talking to herself again. But, you know, like the language that we use in this world really, it kind of hurts us. How many times have we spoken to somebody with an intention that gets turned back to us? Emails and texts is a perfect explanation of this. This is why I use emojis so much. I'm like, I didn't mean that in a sarcastic way. I meant that in a smiley face way. And you know, because, you know, words can be misconstrued, even though you're using the same words that are in the dictionary, but how you use it, how you meant it, how it's received, 3 totally different words, right?
Right, absolutely.
And, you know, going into the positive and negative, you know, when you talk about strengths and weaknesses, that's kind of the same thing. It sounds like it's positive and negative, but that's not it. And strengths are actually the reverse side of your weaknesses. So when somebody says, you know, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? Well, I mean, it could be the same thing. If I'm in a place where I'm hurt, angry, lonely, or tired, halt, my strengths will all of a sudden become a weakness. If I'm at a place where my blood sugar level is low because I skipped lunch because I was too busy trying to be perfect and shitting all over myself, then my strength of organization becomes this weakness of, you know, this OCD. I've got to do everything, put everything in place, and everything has to go in a place. And if everything's not in its place, I'm going to go absolutely crazy at the next person that walks by. You know, so that's kind of how language has really kind of screwed us up. You know, we really need to stop and take a step back and understand that our strengths and weaknesses are one and the same, and that being positive or negative is not good or bad. It just is. And it just like you said, it is what it is.
Wow, that's really interesting. I had kind of an aha just then, you know, when you were saying how the strength and the weakness can be one and the same, but somehow when you hear things and something, you know what, actually it really can be. And so are you saying kind of like when people say, oh my gosh, she killed it, you know, even though what they really mean, oh my gosh, she was amazing, or oh, that was a bad man, but really, you know, but really they're saying, oh my gosh, he is freaking awesome. So is that what you're saying? Like,
yeah, I mean, think about talking to your grandma, right? They're like, what? My grandmother swore up and down all my life that weird was not a word, and I was like, Grandma, you are so weird, you know. But yeah, it's just, you know, it's just how we perceive that word, you know. So we've had a lot of stuff thrown at us, and it takes a lot of trial and error, and sometimes people never figure it out, unfortunately. But if there's enough awareness to know that there's something missing that they don't know, that's step one, right? Like, at least you know, I need to start looking for an answer to this question, the question I didn't even know I had to ask until just now in this moment. And that's kind of, that's another question I'll let you ask.
Robin, what do you think?
Okay, so we all, you know, to make any change, we have to start with awareness. So I love that you brought that up, because, you know, the shift that you went through of feeling you should be something else or some other way because we compare ourselves. So we have this awareness that we're unique, you know, and we start from there, and then, you know, then we realize that words can actually be very limiting. And I love that you add emoticons, because I just watched the introduction of the new Apple watch, and you can actually send your own heartbeat to someone else on their watch.
Okay, so I gotta stop that real. That's a little creepy.
It is.
Okay. Well, let me go to the other thing. You can send like wonderful little emotion. What are they called?
Emoticons.
Emoticons and emojis. You can work with the eyes and the mouth and do fun expressions and things. So I'll skip the heartbeat, but I think that's pretty cool. You know, it's pretty out there what's happening in technology and how to integrate not just the words but add the feeling, so people get a more accurate perception of what's going on versus just the words that people use and misuse without really understanding what they mean. So, you know, we talk about connecting with people and really getting to know people and see people. What do you really, you know, what does that really mean? Because we see that we're hearing there's so many other dimensions because we're all unique. So what does that mean for you?
So this is where language has failed us again, because when you see something in nature, before you are told what it is, before you are told what it can or can't do, your lizard brain innately knows whether that is good, bad, dangerous, safe. There's something in you that is responding to what you're seeing, right? So the one thing that we've learned to do is to not see what somebody else looks like, because we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover. But our body, our mind, still wants to judge that book by the cover. I don't mean judge and be like, oh my God, I would never wear that, and walk away and just be like, we can't be friends. But you do understand that this person, you know, like somebody that would wear sandals rather than high heels, this is a more organic person. Somebody that wears high heels is a more meticulous person. I mean, that's just something, a shoe, right? But that goes also into, you know, just what you're seeing of a person. You can see, you can feel, you can catch what this person is. Like, are they effervescent? Are they reserved? Can I hug this person? Can I not? People give off that vibe because that's who we are in nature. You don't have to be told that this person's a hugger. You can tell. You're like, oh, I'm going in for a hug, you know? Or this other person, you're like, I don't even know if I want a hand over my hand for a handshake. You're just like, hi. You know? There's just something that you don't know why it is that you're responding to this person this particular way, but you do. Yeah. You know, and you could sit there and go over 5 people and shake one hand, hug another, do this, that, and you might be, it might feel like you're biased towards one person or the other, but the person that's receiving the handshake or the hug or the wave is thankful that you understood they're not huggers, or they, you know, don't like just a handshake. Like some people will get offended if you only shake their hand. You know, they're like, what? We need to hug and do the 2 European kiss thing, you know? So that's what, when we see somebody, we see their nature. And we need to kind of be okay with hearing that language.
Okay, so how do we get to the place where we're more sensitive? And I mean, some of us just are natural and it's easier for us, and other people they're not. And I know when we're dealing with different cultures, some people stand really, really close and some people need more space. So how can we train ourselves to improve our sensitivity to really see someone?
Okay, that's interesting that you mentioned cultures, because our technology, our world, our mode of transportation, everything has flown exponentially. It's just gone and gone and gone and gone and gone. We as humans have not evolved as quickly as technology. So there are cultures that are okay with being very close together, and those same people here, not having been born or lived in their home country or their place of ancestral origin, still have those same sensibilities. You know, and sometimes, you know, I used to say, oh, I'm not that Mexican, but there are certain things about me that I'm just like, oh my God, that thing in the afternoon, that's called a siesta in Spain, you know? So there are entire, you know, this whole region that needs to shut down, not because we're lazy, but because we need to recharge. We as our human selves need to recharge. It's like, you know, different dogs, different cats, different, you know, different species almost, but we're all same human. So I don't know necessarily that you need to become more sensitive, because some people just, you know, our sensitivity levels are what they are. Understanding how much you can tolerate, how much time you can spend with other people, particular people, what environments you are better in and not so great in, understanding that and monitoring your own self. Like you can say, you know, we say this all the time to our kids, we try and say this to ourselves as adults, you know, it's not the circumstance or how somebody yells at you or talks to you or whatever, it's how you respond. And so the Y-O-U, your own understanding, it goes into, where do you thrive? What environments are you going to be the best in? Who are you going to be the strongest around? If you have to work with a particular person that drains you, how much time can you spend with this person? How can you change your communication with this person so that you don't maybe have to be face-to-face all the time? You can communicate via email and kind of respond to that person when you can, that sort of thing. It's how you manage your relationships, understanding who you are and what you need. And then people will respond in kind, you know, and you can kind of feel when somebody needs a little more of your time. Managing yourself, understanding what your strengths, weaknesses, you know, what your polarity is, all that good stuff. That's what's important.
I just want to say wow on that one, because I just got a big aha. Because I think I've done this kind of unconsciously, but there are some people that I know picking up the phone is dangerous because it's going to go on and on and on, and I need to communicate, and need to give them attention, but have to do it in a way that is me understanding me and what's going to serve. And on our program last week, we had this fabulous woman, Kathleen Ronald. She talked about clutternomics, and one of the things was two-legged clutter. And when you're saying, where do I thrive, and we look at, maybe there's some two-leggeds in our life that keep us from thriving. So all this fits together so beautifully, and I just want to take it into how do we work with all this in our work life? How can we really flourish and thrive in our work life with understanding ourselves better?
I'm so glad you brought that up. Clutter is filing. It's just a different level of refinement of filing. Some people have to file with one file. I had a boss, oh my gosh, this was hilarious. He just had to have a file for every little thing, and every file had to have like a search term almost. This was before the days of actually being able to categorize everything. There was actually physical files, and he just wanted a label on every file that was the search term. So I would go through the files and have to find the question that he was asking, and then inside that folder was the answer. It's really weird. Me, I'm a stacker. I tend to stack things, and I'll stack like this and this and this and this, but that's how I file. So that's your level of refinement, right? So you wouldn't put somebody that is a very meticulous person sitting next to somebody that's very organic. And you wouldn't, the two of them are going to drain each other. And you're not going to train, like I have bought so many different organization, well, before this test anyway, I bought so many different organization programs. I need to organize my life the way that guy organizes his life because he's successful. Well, that way of organizing would drain me. And then I would become like OCD about the same thing as my boss that would write every little file was a question. And then I started understanding, okay, this is important. This needs to get done right now. And now I understand my way of organizing. And I don't mean to like take away from what anybody ever said. It's just at different levels of refinement. Some people pile, and some people, gosh, there was another guy that was a director of sales. These guys were equally successful, right? The director of sales was just would pile files this high. He got through his week, and he made his numbers, and he kept getting promoted. And then the other guy was very meticulous. Same thing. Got through his week, made his numbers, got promoted. What's the difference? It's not the organizational style. It's the person and how they work within their style. They learned what worked for them, and they embraced that. Remember we talked about branding. We talked about embrace your nature. It's everything, top to bottom. It's branding, it's organization, it's interpersonal relationships at home, at work, everywhere.
So, I love hearing this. There's the pilers and the filers, there's the organics, and there's the persnicketies, and there's a lot of, it's interesting because I like colored files. My husband likes manila files. I like hanging files.
I go out and I buy like pretty little pattern files with flowers and polka dots.
So
but I hate filing. I just stick them up because they look pretty.
So I want to take this to the next level of how it affects our work life, because we're in a profession that's about relationships. We're in a profession of, expanding our network and being in touch and communicating and connecting. And, the more we know ourselves, the more effective we can be with other people. So, in our profession as networkers, how do you see this really, really helping people thrive?
So we kind of touched on this with branding. I said be really authentic, be yourself. Because if you are yourself, you are going to attract other people that you can connect with. This is where it really, really shines. You're also going to attract people just because it may be a great opportunity or because somebody came with somebody else or whatever. You're going to attract other people that are not necessarily, people that you're going to be able to spend 8 to 10 hours a day with. But understanding that and finding the people that will be able to work with that person, that's very important. Because I see so many times people will put out ads or put out, posts or anything that they want to attract a certain level of person or a certain kind of person, a certain refinement, because they think that person is going to be great on their team. But when that person, when it's time to communicate with that person, they fall flat on their face because they're not getting each other. Money has a different value to different people. Money could mean security to one person. It could mean, getting a bunch of toys to another person. It could mean being able to give money to charity to another person. And they all might be starting at the same, same baseline economically, but that money means a different thing. It's a different energy to everybody, right? And so if you're trying to communicate to somebody about being able to give to charity when they want to buy a new jet ski, they're not going to read you. They're not going to hear you. They're like, I want a jet ski. I want to do this on a lake. Like, I don't care if anybody has water in Africa,
Yeah.
So, there's nothing wrong with that person. That's who they are. And and so if you're trying to attract the different people, you're just never going to communicate properly. So the best way to do that is either try and attract people that you can communicate with, innately. You're going to find them because they're just like you, not just like you, but you're going to understand each other better, and you're probably going to work together really well. If you need to attract that, different communication style, whatever, find the people that can talk to them, put people in place, put people on your team that have the ability to communicate to those different refinements. We call it gold, silver, and copper. And, in the Olympics, one is better than the other. In the Olympics, it's bronze. But in our way of talking, it's copper. One isn't better than the other in this way. It's just we use them as ore because it takes a different kind of refinement to get to a different ore. But, copper is copper, silver is silver, and gold is gold. You're not going to take a copper person and have them talk to a gold person, because those two people are going to end up in tears or in fisticuffs, or just walking away from each other completely. So, and it goes back to communication styles, stuff that we've all learned, but I think sometimes we fight ourselves on that. We should on ourselves.
Sugar, that's really, really, really big. And the thing that keeps coming through my mind is that this sounds a lot like it's an exodus of sorts from judgment of who you are, and the journey towards accepting that and then building your life around your own truth. Would that be kind of accurate?
Yeah, and one of the questions I sent you guys was, or one of the topics I wanted to talk about was called the interval. And the interval is what modern day man calls the midlife crisis. Because apparently we used to die in our 60s. So midlife crisis it starts in the, like 34 and goes to about 43. And around that time, you get to be very introspective. And, when I was in my early 30s, I was a very different person than who I am now, not just because I've matured, but because I've gone through that fire. You go through this place where you're like, I was supposed to be doing this, I was supposed to be doing that, I was supposed to have this and that and this and that and this and that, and that did not happen. Or it did happen, and Holy Mother of God, why did I ask for this? You're just like, I didn't really want this. I just thought I should have this. And so one of the things that we kind of talk about is just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Learn the lesson, figure that stuff out. You're not going to, this is why back in the, non-communication style times, people would just up and run away from their families. They're like, oh, I didn't really want, 4 kids, a car, and a mortgage. Bye! So we don't advise that you do that. We just go, okay, take stock. Okay, you've got the kids in the house. Okay, maybe you don't want the mortgage. Maybe renting is better. Maybe living in a hotel is better. Maybe, I don't know. Assess what is working, what is not working, and it's going to take a while. And if you've already passed that stage, you've probably already had enough enlightened moments. You just don't know what to do with those pieces, right? And so there's still time. It's not like it's too late to save for retirement kind of thing. It's just we're still who we are, and we don't die at 60 anymore. We die at like 90, 100, 120. I don't know. So we have a long way to go. And so if you really just want to keep being just miserable for 80 more years, have at it. But I would recommend maybe, just kind of assessing and just taking a real step back and just forgetting. And what you said, I love that, exodus, forgetting or trying to, we kind of use the imagery of a cocoon, of a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. you know, you've got a caterpillar that's fuzzy and it's eating a bunch of stuff, and it's gaining a lot of, basically you're gaining a lot of knowledge. And then you go into this cocoon time where you're just trying to figure out, okay, that was that. I've got this much time ahead of time. I'm feeling like this isn't making my heart sing. This other thing over here is making my heart sing. How are people going to respond to me being this person? You know, how are they going to respond to me wanting to be a gardener as opposed to being, you know, a corporate recruiter, you know? And so you kind of deal with that, right? Then you emerge, hopefully on the other side with all wings intact, and then you're able to fly. And at that point, God help us all, God willing, we will flourish in our world, and we will be better members of our world, and we'll be able to instruct others and hopefully give them a little guidance on what we've seen, but everybody's got to go through the cocoon themselves. But we can take our talents and we can really, really use them. It's almost like you are just now, it's almost like you're a baby. At our ripe old age, in our early 40s, we are just starting out. We are just taking our first step, which is, I'm so thankful for. I just have to say that.
You know, I've noticed that life does get better and easier the older that we get. You know, we become more patient, you know, and all of those great things. I want to touch on something really quickly, if it's okay. Earlier, you mentioned levels of refinement. Some might have a pile, and the other might be very meticulous. And so one of the things that I was going to ask you is, what is the range of tolerance and refinement?
Okay, so here's where interpersonal relationships really change. Everybody, it's almost like an alchemical, it's like a periodic table, right? So I'm going to show you real quickly. Here's our periodic table, right? And so you may land here, and the person that you work with or are married to or have birthed may be over here. And this is actually me and my oldest daughter. And we love each other. We have learned to accept each other's different refinements. But we spend a certain amount of time together, and then we leave. So, you know, this is the same thing. This is the one thing that will ruin relationships, is not understanding that. There are, you know, the little boxes. Our little test goes through like where you are on the scale or on the chart. It also, you can count down how far apart you are from each other, and that's how much time you can or can't spend together. My husband and I. Hard to believe sometimes, we're very close to each other on that chart. We're very different in a lot of ways, but we're close to each other on that chart. And so we can spend a prolonged amount of time together, but at a certain point we're just like, oh my God, get away from me before I murder you and end up on the 10 o'clock news. and as soon as that moment hits, it's like, wham! And so we have learned not to take it personally. You know, the other day, you know, we're just like, and he was just like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, you know, you just haven't gone away. He's a pilot. I'm like, you just haven't gone away in a very long time. I need you to just go away.
You just haven't gone away.
It's not that I don't love you. I just need you to leave.
I get it. I get it. Robin, you take that one. I plead the She's laughing so hard. I'm like, yeah. So I'll turn that one right over to Robin.
Well, I've been a student like you guys, but like both of you, and I just love this because the awareness piece, the self-understanding. You know, you guys are younger than I am. You know, when you mentioned 34 to 40 some odd, I'm going, I'm way over that one. And it does get better as we do get to know ourselves. And, you know, so much of our work is about knowing ourselves, but also, you know, understanding who other people are and knowing where on that chart and how far away are we and how can we really thrive together and what are those conditions. So, you know, this is really, really helpful because I from just listening to you, Sugar, it's like this can have tremendous impact on our personal relationships. And, you know, parents and children are many times so different. And when we get to the place where we really respect those differences instead of trying to should on or change each other, it makes a huge, huge difference. So I'm hoping at this stage of life, because I've turned the big 6-0, and I think it just does keep getting better and better as I'm getting more and more comfortable with me. But I'm very interested in this particular model. And
it's funny. You're actually entering, and this is so you. You are actually entering the pay it forward stage, and I see this in you all the time. You are paying it forward. You're putting this out there, putting this information out there for people without wanting anything back, wanting anything in return. It's your moment to be able to take what you've learned and gather the people that you've gathered in your tribe and pay it forward. And I mean, I can't wait to get to the pay it forward. I'm like all excited.
It is a great stage in life, and there's still the self-care part that comes in, and and just the refinements of understanding the different relationships is so important. So so here we are. Now I know that there's a way that you have that people can get an increased awareness about their Y-O-U. So you want to share about that?
Sure. And I wanted to just real quick, because this is about, network marketing, people being in direct sales and, and having their own independent businesses. I kind of wanted to touch on one last thing, and I'm glad you mentioned, the parents and children. One of the things that my daughter and I struggled with was trying to figure out what she was going to be in her life. And I was trying, I'm a very, I'm not the helicopter mom, but I'm like, don't just not go to school and just, float around and try and figure it out. Let's find out what your strengths are and everything. She ended up going to baking school because she loved baking. Well, halfway through school, she called me and she was like, I hate this. I'm like, what? I'm expecting she's going to be like Ace of Cakes. We're going to make money off this girl, And what it was is in baking, there is a high level of refinement. Precision, and that's not her. What she loved about baking was nurturing people, and feeding was part of that nurturing. And if I would have been smart enough, I would have remembered that when she was in grade school, she was like one of the first volunteers for the I forget what it was. It was basically like you wore your little vest and you went on the part in the playground, and if anybody was conflict resolution. She was in a conflict resolution team on the playground. And this was in Marin, and now it's everywhere, but this was like the early 90s, and this was groundbreaking. And she was like this kid that was like, I want to be this conflict resolution person. Well, because she wanted people to get along, she wanted to nurture people, she wanted to nurture relationships, and that's what baking meant to her. So baking school was a bad decision. So now we're looking at other ways that she can nurture people, and understanding that part is so key. So little clues like that pop in our heads, but if you're really dumb to clues like I was at the time, and I was just trying to help my daughter get on the right path, we do have our test, and you can go to, it's actually on a page of my blog, talks a little bit more about it, and then gives you the link where you can take the test. It's livethesweetlife.com. And one of the tabs on top says Y-O-U. And you just click on that, and it'll take you where you need to go.
Oh, fabulous. I just want to go back to something you just said, and I hope everyone does take the test. I'm very, very much looking for it. I've done so many assessments, and you said something about your daughter, which I think is, I've been in a similar but different field. I was in the field of outplacement consulting and a career transition. So we both worked with people in their career transition. And a piece just came into my life not too many years ago from Marcus Buckingham. He worked with the Gallup organization, and they realized from all their research from Gallup, who are the professional researchers, that people operate better in their positions in life, in work, and everything when we operate from our strengths. So they had a strength assessment, and I did that one, and it was very interesting. And then he came out with a new book called Stand Up, I think 2.0, and I did that assessment, and that was really interesting because I've done so many assessments. I figure I knew myself, and then I did his, and I saw my top 3 strengths, and I totally discounted him immediately when I got the results. And then I went 30 seconds later going, this guy's an expert in strengths. Maybe I should pay attention and read what he has to say. And it was so powerful because it totally affirmed what I love to do, which is what we're doing right here. I'm a pioneer and I'm a teacher, and the way he defined those things is very different than the way I define them. And so it's been very helpful to me, and you as a mother, and anyone who's a parent or a manager or something, to really have a way to find people's strengths can make such a huge difference in people thriving. So thank you for being such a great mom. That's so wonderful. You're lucky children. Yes.
Yeah, well, some of them don't think so, but that's okay.
That's their age. That's what they do. So, Monty, what else do you want to ask Sugar right now?
And I was just thinking about all of this and how it relates to our profession. And this is just as much about business as it is about yourself, because I know, Robin, I think it was both you and Gregory that said that this industry is a personal development program with a compensation plan attached to it. And thinking about that, getting to know you is such a key part of that. Because I know for a long time, even when I was developing my coaching and speaking, I kept going, okay, well, where do I go? Okay, I can do this, and I know how to do that, and oh, I can do this. But just because you're talented at something doesn't mean that that's what you're purposed to do. Because I found that I had a lot of talents in a lot of areas, but not all of those areas made me happy. And so I would be okay for a little bit. The next thing you know, I'm bored with it, I'm over it, and then I start not liking it, like a lot, And so that, I think that this is really important, because this is, to me, not only a key for getting to know how you do your business style, but how you can, learn to accept other people, in business, because they can be challenging. We all have been there, to understand that relationships with others, especially because this is a people business, that can be a super challenging thing. And so does this program help people not only discover themselves, but gain a better understanding and acceptance of other people when it comes to relating in business?
Well, unless the other person actually takes a test, you can't really know for sure.
Okay.
So it works really well. Like if you did have like a group of people that you wanted to have take a test, and then you could see where everybody is on the scale and how long and how well they will be able to interact together. That'll work. But again, going back to, look, you found out what works for you, and you need to be the person that responds properly to the situation and to the person and to the environment.
Yeah, I think properly and also courageously. Because some of us are unwilling to tell the truth to ourselves about ourselves because we don't know how other people will feel about it. You agree?
Right. Oh, absolutely. I'm still in people pleaser mode a lot of the time.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things about me that I'm just like, why are you still trying to do that thing? It's this competitive thing about me. They're like, I have to win. Who am I? I'm not like competing against anybody else. I'm just, I don't know. Sometimes I still beat myself up, and I'll go back and I'll read my test again, and one of the things that revives me, besides napping, is being out in the yard and playing in the dirt and playing with my flowers and my vegetables. And so I'll go out there and I'll just kind of have a little moment with my zucchinis and my tomatoes, and I'm all better, So that's the way I cope with things. Other people's just people just if they feel like overwhelmed, they just need to take out a piece of paper and list everything that they need to get done. Not everything, maybe like, 6 things, 5 or 6 things. And that goes into the cubby thing, right? Where you just need to break it down into, these are the things that need to get done right now. Don't let yourself spin out over here. Just relax and breathe, and understanding that that's what you need when you start to get to that hurt, angry, lonely, or tired place where you're starting to feel your strengths turn into your weaknesses, and you're starting to feel like you are going to turn, into that person that everybody doesn't want to be around, That's the awareness that this, hopefully, that the results of this this test really bring to you and help you with in managing your relationships, your interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, so bottom line, take care of you. And I know that with you're speaking just volumes to me. That's why I love being here every week, because every time I'm here, somebody brings something that's so good and so juicy and something I can apply right now. Because sometimes I would find myself needing to take a nap but feeling guilty about the fact that I needed to rest, because I'm like, okay, well, I still have this to do and that to do and that to do and that to do, and I think sometimes we can enter into, martyrdom in a way to say, oh my God, I've got the thing, I got the thing, and I'm schooling, and I got business, and I got, you know what I mean? We go through all these things over and over again because it's easy to live in that story instead of living in the, okay, I will see you guys in a little bit. I'm going to take a nap, and I don't really care what you think about it. This is who I am. So,
yeah, there were a few years there where I was volunteering for stuff at church. I had bleached my hair blonde. I had become a totally different person, and I was like, "Who are you?" You know. And so then I went back to my natural hair color, and people come to with me at a clipboard, and I'm like, "Don't even ask me. Don't even ask me. I don't know. I hate volunteering. Get away from me. How much do you want? I'll write a check." You know. And they look at me like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh, you'll get there, sister." You'll get to a place where you're like, "I won't volunteer either." You know, it's just you either love volunteering or you don't. But doing it, you know, that's just one example. But doing it to, you know, because you're trying to be something or have, you know, do all these other things. I'm like, no, I'd rather take a nap.
Okay, Miss Sugar.
Now we all know I love naps.
I love that you love naps, and I love that you own that you love naps, and I love, love, love your passion. You know, you have such passion about this program, and when I think of you as the social media maven, and so this is a whole nother dimension, and a blogger, and you know, you just really know so many different things, but you know, this is a really important part of your life, and why did you add this dimension into your social media, which is your main focus as the social media maven and educator and support and, you know, media manager for so many people? Why now did you add this program? Because I feel your passion for it, and I get how excited you are.
So around the same time I started in social media, I actually was introduced to this test. And I was, I think I mentioned this on the last time we chatted, was at the time my blog was really a story about me going through this, understanding myself, you know, questioning why I was doing things the way I was doing, things that I used to do and things that I was embracing. And I think it resonated with a lot of people. Most of the people that read my blog were about my same age or around the same age, and they were going through the same thing as well. You know, and I really started seeing that my stories were resonating, and that was something that I really wanted to take off with, was just doing this. But then social media kind of took off, and, you know, it paid the bills. So the other thing that I felt really uncomfortable with was I felt like I still didn't have my stuff together. And, you know, that was, I don't know, 8 years ago, 7 years ago. So now I don't care. I don't really care that I don't have everything all together. I finally have emerged from the cocoon, and you know, my wings are a bit tattered on the ends, and I'm okay with it, you know. And so I finally had to come to that place of self-acceptance where I started talking about it. But I've been blogging and doing social media as long as I've been doing the Ultimate Life Tool. I just have, you know, not had that courage that, you know, Monty just spoke of, to be able to come out and say, you know what, my wings are tattered, but here's this really cool tool. So.
That's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So, Monty, we're just finishing up here, and why don't you say a few words, and then I'll close it out. How's that?
Sure thing. So I want to make sure that everyone heard the importance of this today, and that you go to Sugar's blog, livingthesweetlife.com. Is that right?
Livethesweetlife.com. As in
life. Livethesweetlife.com. Make sure you get there, take the test, find out about Y.O.U. It's going to be super, super important. Love it. Live the sweet life. Oh my God, I just did an Oprah song. I hate when she does that. You know how she's, oh, you know, I did that. Like, that was, anyway, okay, so.
And you get a new car, and you get a new car.
So everybody go to Sugar's site, livethesweetlife.com. Sign up for the test, take the test, and make sure that you tell everybody to be here every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be back here next week with another important guest. And also make sure you join our Facebook group. It's cool. Lots of cool things are going to start happening there. Robin and I are still working on lots of amazing things. The guest list is coming that's going to be off the charts, and I couldn't wait to have Sugar back. Sugar, thank you. Thank you for coming back. You are awesome.
Thank you so much.
Every time there's just this synergy. I know you guys can feel when the three of us get together. It's just really fun. It's just really fun. So anyway, yeah, Sugar made me sing it like Oprah. So anyway, we will see you guys next Thursday.
Okay. Before we finish, let's just, Sugar, any final comments?
Nope, that's it. Just love being here, and
Okay.
thank you so much for putting this out there, Robin.
Okay, well, we adore you, and like Monty said, the three of us just have a blast together, and we love sharing with all of you. So please join us, and we have many wonderful things unfolding, like Monty said, and there was something really important I wanted to share, but I'm forgetting. So anyway, the Wise Women Weekly Facebook group, as Monty mentioned, is available for everyone. There is a link there in the file section that has all the YouTubes. I'm busy, and I know Monty's busy decluttering our life, and amazing things are unfolding because of that. Kathleen has a course coming up. Sugar, you are a social media maven, and we would love to tap into more of that at another time, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll get more of Sugar's wisdom in the future. Thank you all for being with us. Really appreciate it, and see you next week, Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.